Back here on Inside Wrestling Radio. Got a special interview coming up next in this portion of the program. Got my dear friend Brodie Chase, who's made the trip down here to Lawrence to be on the show. Brodie and I have been friends for a long time. Brodie's one of the very few people in this business that I actually trust and listen to, and it's kind of like E.F. Hutton. When Brodie Chase talks, Ricky Regal listens. Let me give you a little background on Brodie. He became a professional wrestler in 1985, wrestling under the name Brodie Ray Chase. He's wrestled for every major organization in the United States. He's traveled to Japan, Mexico, and Canada, and seen some of the most exotic countries in the world thanks to professional wrestling. He credits professional wrestling with a lot of good things that's happening in his life, and he's a big part of it. He's wrestled over 40 world champions. He's been wrestled numerous tag team champions. He's been on TBS television, worldwide television, in his rookie year in 1985. In 2008. 23 years after that, he wrestled on WWE TV and had a big match on WWE, which we'll talk about later. He wrestles currently for NWA Anarchy out of Georgia, and he is currently the NCW heavyweight champion. Like I said, I met Brodie in 1989, and we've been great friends ever since. Right now, welcome to the program, Brodie Chase. Brodie, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Goober says hey.
Well, I'm so glad you came up, man. I really am. I just can't thank you enough. I appreciate you coming up. What do you got going on right now, Brodie? Tell us just a little bit about what's current for you.
Well, actually, I'm still pretty busy in the business, wrestling Anarchy and NCW. Also, I'm a personal trainer, so I'm staying pretty busy, and thank goodness my health is holding up good.
That's just great, man. Like I said, you're a great friend of mine, and we've been through a lot of stuff together. We've been up and down the roads lots of times, and want to get into some of those old stories, man. Tell me about how you got into the business back in the days gone by of '80s.
Well, in '85, I actually traveled to Tampa, Florida, and trained under Boris Malenko, Dean Malenko's father, and trained for him for 12 weeks, going down every weekend. It was Saturday and Sunday. Then once the training was over, he said, "Thank you very much and good luck with your career." I didn't have any idea that you had to find your own matches and get a promoter to hire you and get you in shows. Then fortunately I met Horace Strickland, who was in Anderson, South Carolina at the time, and he was promoting shows, and I only worked one independent show before I got my job at TBS and wrestled Nikita Koloff in my second professional
Wait a minute, you only did one independent show before you went on national television?
And let me tell you, he probably had 500 or 600. He only had 500 or 600 people in the building, so I thought the guy obviously didn't make any money, so I didn't take any money for that day. All I seen was 16,000 people in these big arenas. So right. When he only drew 500-600 people at $12 a head, yeah. I obviously thought he didn't make any money.
Yeah, and so that's $85 too. So yeah, that's a lot of money.
Hey, $1985.
Right? Yeah.
When the economy was rather nice.
Wow, I didn't even know that. I didn't know you. So how'd you get the NWA gig?
Jimmy and Mac Jeffers, which was the Mod Squad, lived in Anderson.
Talked about those the other week with J.D. Costello.
They helped me a lot, and Jimmy went to bat for me and told Mike Jackson out of Alabama, who was in charge of the job guys.
Which job guys are enhancement talent.
Enhancement talent, right, exactly right. It's a much better way of putting it. And they offered good money, and so I took it and was able to go down. And once they found out I lived in the Carolinas, I was treated differently. And then I started getting house shows. My first house show was in Omni.
House shows being not televised events.
Right.
Okay.
And the televised, a lot of people don't know that the televised events were actually televised at TBS Studios.
Right.
And it was the old TBS Studios. So we probably only had 2,000 square feet to put a ring and people lined up outside for the first 200 people to get in the door.
Right.
But it was a huge place. CNN was there at the time and everything. But it was a very small audience. And a house show meant you got to go to the Omni, which at the time seated 16,000 people for wrestling.
Yeah.
So that was a big change for me.
Yeah, that was probably just a shocking jump from going and working in front of your first show 500, your next show maybe 20 or so, 200 or so in the television taping, and then to walk out through that curtain and there's 16,000. I imagine for a kid was probably a big mind-blowing event.
Well, actually, the one in front of the 200 people, because it was seen worldwide.
Yeah. But at the time though, were you thinking about that though? Were you thinking this is going on?
Because everybody I knew saw it.
Yeah.
Therefore, I obviously was there, and now I'm a star.
Yeah.
When I went to the Omni, I would have to tell people, God, I got a match at the Omni last night. There was 16,000 people. Oh, really? I didn't see it.
Right. If it didn't happen on TV, it didn't
Right.
happen.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So really, the television tapings were more important to me because my family, my mother, everybody got to see them.
Right.
But personally, I was so thankful to get to do the house shows because the pay was 10 times better.
Right.
The matches were longer. You got more creative control of your stuff, and it was a lot more fun. But really, the television is the only thing that meant anything.
Really. And so how long did you work for the NWA at that time?
I left in '89 to go to Memphis to work for Jarrett.
Right.
And I was promised a little more money than I actually got. I didn't understand how that worked at the time. Mm-hmm. I thought if somebody told you they was going to pay you X amount of dollars, that's actually what you got. I didn't realize there was a floating scale. It floated to the lower end.
Sure, yeah. Now, were you under contract then, or were you getting paid by show? How were they working to pay? Back
They told you would get X number of dollars per week.
Right.
And you were expected to work 5 shows a week. And 2 of them were on Saturday. You did TV tapings in Memphis that morning at 9 a.m. Then you traveled to Nashville that night and did the Nashville Fairgrounds, which was a big show at the time.
And there was a lot of TV over there in the Memphis area. That was
Oh man, everybody! You couldn't go anywhere that people didn't know you.
Yeah.
It was such a huge following, and everybody lived in Murfreesboro, which is right outside of Nashville.
Right.
And the first person that I got to stay with was the Undertaker, Mark Callis, at the time.
Really?
And he had a biker gimmick at the time, and went to his apartment, and he was barely making it too. And he had a couch, a TV, and a bed.
Really?
And so I got the couch.
Yeah. So now, tell us some of those stories about just trying to get through and trying to get over and trying to make your name out there and in relatively going from the NWA where you, like you said, you had national exposure to Memphis, which was more localized television, right?
Right. But you were expected to perform at a different level because you were brought in as mid-card to elevated status. And Jeff Jarrett dropped his title on me, which was the television title. Okay. And I wrestled Scott Steiner for a month. And it was every night. And to me, he was the best-looking guy on the show.
Right, yeah.
But I think they were checking out his staying power. Mm-hmm. They wanted to test him and see if he handled losing and not being the big fish in the pond. He was an All-American in Michigan. His brother was already on television in TBS.
Right.
And they held him down just to see what his attitude would be like.
And how'd that work?
It was very difficult to work with him.
I could imagine so from the stories I've heard about Scotty.
And it carried over into another area. But we've since made up, and we're good friends now. But it was a difficult time then. But I did enjoy doing those house shows because I met people like Tojo Yamagoto and Dutch Mantel and Robert Fuller and all those people that I'd love to watch over the years because I loved that Memphis wrestling. Yeah. It had such a realism. The first brawl ever was at Memphis and through the concession stands. Yeah. And then they started having matches like that. Before that, they stayed in the barrier or you got fired.
Really?
And that became such a big thing because it was deemed as real.
Yes.
They fought in the concession stand. He threw Coca-Cola in that man's face. You know you get mad at that.
Brodie, let me hold you up right there. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this with some more Brodie Chase. He's got lots of stories and lots of history. Right back at you inside Wrestling Radio with Brodie Chase.